The White House is warning that an assault on Israel could come from Iran or its proxies as soon as this week. The US is sending a guided missile submarine to the region. It's also ordered its aircraft carrier strike group to get there very swiftly. So Keir Starmer, meanwhile, having cancelled his holiday, is joining diplomatic efforts towards de-escalation, tonight calling the Iranian president and urging him against an attack.
While the talk is of peace, the weapons of war are being moved into place. The United States now deploying an additional carrier strike group to the Middle East. The USS Abraham Lincoln being sent to support the USS Theodore Roosevelt, amid an increasing belief that a significant Iranian strike on Israel is imminent. With US intelligence suggesting Iran is preparing to retaliate possibly within days, the USS Georgia, a guided missile submarine, is also being deployed. That its presence is being made public, yet another attempt to highlight America's commitment to protect Israel and deter an Iranian attack. While America deploys military assets, the calls for restraint have grown. Tonight, Prime Minister Keir Starmer spoke directly to the newly elected Iranian president to urge Iran not to attack Israel, warning a regional war was in no one's interests. The call came after a joint statement from the British, French and German governments, in which they said, "We call on Iran and its allies to refrain from attacks that would further escalate regional tensions and jeopardise the opportunity to agree a ceasefire and the release of hostages. They will bear responsibility for actions that jeopardise this opportunity for peace and stability. No country or nation stands to gain from a further escalation in the Middle East."
The statement from the Prime Minister and the leaders of France and Germany just underlines how concerned we are about the risks of escalation in the region. We're making a strong statement of the need for calm in the region and to Iran in particular, not to escalate the situation.
The opportunity for peace, spoken about by distant governments, feels very remote to those trying to survive in the war that is already underway. In Gaza today, they buried the dead from the latest attacks. Exhausted by grief, fear, and 10 months of living whilst preparing to die. Later this week, peace talks are due to resume to try and end this war, but hopes of success are not high and would be further jeopardised by an Iranian strike. A military escalation would not only do great harm to any chance of peace in Gaza, but cast this region into very dangerous times.
And Emma is in Beirut for us tonight. Emma, it does feel that there's a bit of a shift in mood tonight.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say, Tom. There was that shift in the American military posture this morning when they said that they were really beefing up the strike carrier group that was being sent to this area, and that was the first indication that things were changing. And then in the last few hours, we heard from the White House's national security spokesman that American intelligence was backing up the intelligence that the Israelis said that they had, that there was a very likely strike due to be carried out by Iran imminently. And that was really when things started to change. It came at the same time as reports from the region here were discussing the fact that potentially Iran were moving missiles and drones in a similar way to the way they did back in April, just before they last attacked Israel. So obviously there is a significant sense of anticipation around here. And of course, that could well be part of the mind games that are going on, because you know, Iran has promised that they were going to retaliate. Nothing has come for around 2 weeks. Not entirely surprising, because Iran are pretty strategically patient. But the longer it goes on, the more the anxiety grows for people. And every day for the last 2 weeks, there have been peaks in the tension where it seemed like something was going to happen and then it went away. I think it's impossible for anybody to definitely say what is going to happen. And anybody who's claiming to know what is going to happen is probably not speaking truthfully.
Emma, when we've talked about the geopolitics of the region in the past, at least over the last few months, we've often said that despite very bellicose language on occasions, the actual actions of Iran and Israel have seemed quite carefully calibrated to avoid escalation at times. Has that changed in your view?
I think it's probably too early to judge whether that's changed or not, because at this point there has been no retaliation from Iran, just a lot of that language that you speak of suggesting that there is going to be. The question for those trying to assess what's going on here is whether the delay means that Iran is being very careful, it's calibrating its response, or it's playing some kind of spectacular, and what that means for the region.